Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next item is to authorize staff to conduct an internal posting for the transit coordinator position, and the motion is to approve the updated transit coordinator job description and authorize staff to conduct the job posting process for only internal candidates for the transit coordinator position, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, second by Stengline. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next up is the clarification on the promotion step for Chad Lardy. And the motion is to clarify the initial step placement for Chad Lardy's promotion on October 16th, 2022 to Street Maintenance 3 Sewer Lead will be at step 4, which is $30.38 per hour, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, a second by Stunek. Chairman Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. President, when we initially negotiated his promotion, we thought he needed a Class B sewer collector license, so he was going to go get that to be at step 4. Turns out he doesn't need it. He's not qualified to take the test. What he does need is a Class C, and he did take that test. He did acquire that license. So what we intended to happen is him to be at step 4 after having done what he has done.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next up is the Toward Zero Deaths Grant Contract Resolution, and the motion is to adopt the attached resolution authorizing the police chief authority to execute the 2023 fiscal year Toward Zero Deaths Grant, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, a second by Stengline. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Beazer.
Yes.
Stengline.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes, that resolution is adopted. Please proceed.
Thank you. Next up is 2023 Health Insurance Broker Agreement and Fee. And the motion is to authorize retaining North Risk Partners as our health insurance broker for 2023 for the Better Health Collective, formerly known as Sourcewell, in the amount of $25,000. Further, to approve the attached 2023 service agreement between the City of Brainerd and North Risk Partners, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, a second by Stunek. Any discussion? Chairman Johnson.
We've had them as our health insurance broker for a few years, and we've been very satisfied with their services, so we're going to continue using them.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. The final item from our committee today is to consider updating the financial management policies, the fund balance policy. And the motion is to update the City of Brainerd financial management policies fund balance as presented and explained above, and I so move.
Second.
I have a motion by Johnson, a second by Stengline. Any discussion? Chairman Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. President, the primary change here is instead of being 35 to 50% of next year's expected budget, it's current year's expected budget, which changes the calculus a little bit, but not by too much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next up is item 6, Council Committee Report 6B, Safety and Public Works Chairman Mike O'Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had 7 items on our agenda tonight, first of which was an event street closure application for the Shriners Turkey Run. Motion coming out of committee is to recommend approval of the attached application under the condition the applicant requests traffic control as soon as possible. Any signs are removed after the event conclusion, and an insurance certificate is submitted to the city per the permit requirements before the event, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Erickson. Any discussion? Chairman O'Day.
Yeah, this is the annual turkey run on Thanksgiving morning, November 24th, 2022, from 8 a.m. to noon. They start at the fairgrounds. They're using County Road 45, TC Drive, 11th Street, South 10th Street, Wright Street, TC Road. They end up at the Armory. Part of Wright Street will be closed, so I'll see you guys all there. I'm sure everybody in this room is going to run in that. No?
Where did you stop after work?
I'll be serving and delivering turkeys.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next is a cooperative agreement with Minnesota DNR for the Lum Park boat access. So as we know, next year we have a grant to fix our road to the boat landing in Lum Park. It's going to get replaced. Along with that project, the DNR has recognized that the planking at the boat landing is in rough shape, so they're gonna come in and replace that. With this agreement, the only thing the city's on the hook for is possible gravel backfill in the boat launch area. So motion coming out of committee was to recommend approval of the attached agreement with the state of Minnesota for the Lum Park Public Water Access Replacement and direct staff to work with DNR on the repairs in advance of the city's Lum Park Road project, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, second by Beazer. Any discussion? Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just an interesting addition to this project, we've talked about at BPU, is there is not currently a light at the boat launch. So when it's dark, right? So when they're doing this road project, I think we're gonna have BPU run a line of electricity and put up a light pole down at the dock down there so people can see what they're doing when they're landing their boat in the dark.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Third item was approval of NP Center Trail Project Final Settlement and Release Agreement. This is our contract with Mr. Higgins for the NP Center segment of the trail coming through town. Recommendation from committee was to approve the final settlement and release agreement as presented and issuance of a $20,000 payment to Mr. Higgins for reimbursement. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Erickson. Any discussion? Chairman O'Day.
Yeah, this is just, there were about $19,000 or $20,000 in punch list items that we were on the hook for, and he would rather just do them himself. So basically what it came down to is we paid him for some gravel that he had gave us for free. So we're even. And we are no longer on the hook for anything at the NP Center as far as the trail project is concerned.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 4 was a change order. Change order 1 for improvement 19-02 CLST Extension West Segment Project. Pull that up. So this is the next section of this trail project coming through the southeast neighborhood from the NP Center into downtown. There's a couple issues that came up, some damaged water mains, downtime. I think there were 4 total items, but they totaled $8,355.41. Part of that will be billed to BPU, was it? And motion coming out of committee was to approve the attached change order for that amount, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, second by Beazer. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 5 was a discussion on North 3rd Street sidewalks. This was a project that was supposed to happen this year. It got pushed back to next year due to supply chain issues. One of the residents on North 3rd Street, Chris Hastings, was here speaking, as was his next door neighbor, Bill Matthews. They want to keep the sidewalk in front of their house that was scheduled to be removed. Mr. Matthews is disabled and they use that sidewalk every day. They explained to us, and we didn't take a motion because we have not heard from the neighboring residents, but we've talked about extending that sidewalk through that block to the south and another extra block to make it more of a complete sidewalk system on that street, with only an estimated additional cost of about $21,700. But we're going to push that a couple weeks. We didn't take a motion, just knowing that we are reassuring them that we don't want to take the sidewalk in front of their house. We just don't know how much we want to possibly extend it. We'll figure that out in 2 weeks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
may I add something to that discussion? Happened to be at a Northside residents meeting yesterday, just a social. And one thing that came up virtually unanimously is the pedestrian crossing on Third, right in front of the hospital. And if, this was a huge discussion 10 years ago as we were readjusting where we wanted our street lights, and a lot of people felt that street lights were for pedestrian safety, and we had long discussions that no, they're for driving on the road. But since then, the county has put up, or we put up, those nifty push button things right by on Laurel Street. And they said, could we get one of those at the hospital? Because there's a lot of foot traffic going from those parking lots over to the hospital. Now, there was no official word from the hospital. This was residents, but there was 3 people who were on the hospital board that thought that would be worthy of discussion since the project got pushed back an extra year. So if I could, as long as you're discussing, that seemed legitimate to me.
Are you talking RRFB, the flashing beacon lights?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah, I have no problem discussing.
Push
that
and
with
cross things.
Want to add that to that agenda? All right, perfect. So that was it for number 5. If you don't mind moving on.
Please proceed.
Number 6 was approval of downtown snow removal bids. We got one bid again. Typically, we only receive a bid from Tom's Backhoe on this one, and once again, we did. Usually, the price goes up about 5% every year, and this time it went up 10%. But we don't have a choice. So, motion coming out of committee was to approve the bid from Tom's Backhoe Service for the 2022-2023 downtown snow removal services in the downtown district, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Erickson. Any discussion? Chairman Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. President, I kind of have a question of the chair. If the committee discussed the email we received from a property owner, I believe the entire council received it, and the property owner seems to want downtown to be treated like the rest of the city, where we just plow the snow all onto the sidewalk and let it sit there and maybe remove it once or twice a year with the spirit of Carl Showalter. Did the committee discuss that at all?
I can answer you. We did not discuss that. We were a little short on time by the time we got to this item. I think that discussion will come up. I believe we have a public hearing. Is it the next meeting? Administrator Bergman? It's in the next meeting or two.
That's on the assessment for a prior year, though, not next year.
Oh, I believe we have a public hearing regarding the special services districts in general, don't we?
Mr. Chair, I will look into that, and I'll get back to you on the public hearing date and if we have one.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson?
Yep.
May I ask you a question?
Yep.
Are you suggesting we hold off on this?
Well, if we're going to listen to the downtown business owners and property owners, we should probably not engage in this contract right now until we have heard from them that they would rather just sit on their sidewalks for months.
I mean, that would be, to me, the appropriate.
You think that would be the appropriate? I'd move to table this until we've heard from the downtown businesses and property owners.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Sorry,
So
Miss-
the motion is to accept the bid from Tom's Backhoe. And then we have a subsequent motion to table this. You can't say until we hear from them. You gotta pick a date. We can retable it again, but you gotta pick a date.
When's it gonna snow?
Yeah. Yeah, let's go to the first meeting in November.
All right. Seconder okay with
Of
that?
1991?
Is the seconder okay
Gonna
with
be
that?
Gabe's fault again.
We can either do it in 2 weeks or 4
Okay,
weeks.
so we have a motion to table this motion until the first meeting in November. Any discussion on the date as to when we're tabling it to? Okay, so you vote, let's call the roll on this, please, Administrator Bergman.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Beazer.
Yes.
Stengline.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes, so we have tabled the original motion, which will come back to us, that motion, on this amount for Tom's Backhoe on the first meeting in November. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Final item for SPW tonight was direction on active code enforcement cases. We had 3 cases brought before us tonight. 408 Second Avenue Northeast, damaged roof. They have $900 in open citations. $600 will be assessed to the property. We will be sending a 10-day order to correct letter and issuing $300 citations every 30 days until November 1st. Again, this is only something that happens when people don't respond to any letters or citations. Next was 1218 Quinn Street. This was a fence, unrepaired fence that fell over apparently in a storm, but it's been laying there. Discussions started mid-August, have been going. They have $600 in open citations. Staff is recommending sending a 20-day order to correct letter for the repair of the fence or proof that the contract has been signed for the repair and begin working with the city attorney for abatement of the fence in the case that it doesn't get repaired. Third was 710 9th Street North. This is just the long grass one. They have $600 in open citations, haven't heard from them, so staff is recommending abating the long grass immediately. And so the motion coming out of committee was to follow and approve all staff recommendations on these three properties, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Beazer. Any discussion on the nuisances? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you, Chairman Johnson. Please proceed.
End of report.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item 7. Item 7A is unfinished business, adopting an ordinance 1536, an ordinance amending chapters 1 and 2 for the Brainerd City Charter. And if this looks familiar, it should, because we voted on it once, but we only had 6 people here, and this has to be voted on unanimously. Administrator Bergman, anything you want to add?
I have nothing to add in addition to that.
All right. Anybody need to discuss this again? Hearing none, we're looking for a motion to adopt proposed ordinance 1536, an ordinance amending chapters 1 and 2 of the Brainerd City Charter.
So move, Erickson.
Motion
Second.
by Erickson, second by Stengline. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, this is adopting, and this would be a resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
Ordinance.
It's an ordinance, okay. Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Stunek.
I'm here, yes.
Johnson.
Yep.
Beazer.
Yes.
Stengline.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes. So we're 1 for 3. Let's try it again. Item 7B, which is the adoption of an ordinance 1537, an ordinance amending Chapter 3 of the Brainerd City Charter. Administrator Connie Hillman, anything you wish to add to what you did a while ago?
Nothing to add.
Okay, you want to see if you can repeat it without looking at the minutes? Okay. All right. Any questions of Connie Hillman on this? Hearing none, is there a move to adopt this ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Stengline, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Any discussion on the motion? Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Beazer.
Yes.
Stengline.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes. 2 for 3. Next up, item 7C, adopting an ordinance 1538, an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Brainerd City Charter. This is Connie Hillman again.
I have nothing to add.
Perfect. Any questions of staff? Hearing none, we're looking for a motion to adopt ordinance 1538.
So move.
Approve. Second.
We got a motion by Stunek, a second by Erickson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Beazer.
Yes.
Stengline.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes, so those 3 are all adopted. Next up is letter D, setting a workshop for discussion of the use of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. This would be Connie Hillman. Any suggestions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff is requesting council to hold a workshop on Tuesday, October 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. to discuss the use of the state and local fiscal recovery funds for the ARPA grant of 2021. The reason we are recommending it for Tuesday is because Monday the 10th is a federal holiday. Just a reminder, the city received over $1,468,000 in state and local fiscal recovery funds. And if council agrees to hold a workshop on Tuesday, October 11th at 6 p.m., It is also recommended that the council adjourn tonight's meeting to that workshop.
Any questions of our finance director, Mayor Bedeau?
Yeah, I believe the park board has something happening that same time
I don't know.
at 4 o'clock, from 4 to 5.
Would that conflict with a 6 PM workshop?
Depends on if Kevin gets going or not.
That would be my, my only concern.
I think we could probably safely give them the extra hour for travel time for those of you that go to.
Travel time up and down the elevator or what?
Yeah. Right,
Okay.
I think we're okay. Any further discussion on the date or time? Okay, let's put a motion to this, to move to hold the workshop for Tuesday, the 11th at 6 PM.
So move, Erickson.
By Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stengline. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. We have a workshop. All right, next up is item E, which is to appoint a library liaison. Tell us what we're gonna do here.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to take this. Our library liaison was Councilmember Pritchett. He has since resigned and has been replaced by Councilmember Beazer. I did have a discussion with Councilmember Beazer about his interest in being the liaison to the library from the City Council. He has acknowledged that he would be interested and willing to serve as that liaison. Mr. Chair.
Who appoints him?
You do, Mr. Chair.
I move to appoint, I can't move. My recommendation is that Mr. Beazer be appointed the library chair, or the library
I move to
liaison.
adopt that recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, second by Stengline. Any discussion?
Yep.
Thanks, Mr. Beazer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Didn't even look this way.
Next up is a call for applicants. We'll start with Mayor Bedeau.
All right, the following applications are available on our website, www.ci.brainerd.mn.us/boards. The following terms expire 12/31 of said year. Charter Commission, 1 term expiring 2028, 1 term expiring 2025. Rental Dwelling License Board of Appeals, 2 terms expiring 2022. Library Board, 1 term expiring 2023. We also have 2 spots on the EDA expiring 9/7 of said year, 1 term expiring 2027 and 1 term expiring 2026.
We're getting them down there.
That's the lowest we've had in a long time.
All right.
Appreciate everyone for
Nice,
stepping up.
nice work. Next up is item 8. Item 8 is new business. Item 8A is considering an interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use at 1911 TC Drive. Community Development Director Kramvik, anything you wish to add to what's in our packet?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So just a little background here. The EDA has been working with VCV on the land sale of 2 industrial park properties along with Brainerd Public Utilities. The EDA has conveyed the land to VCV at the last meeting. So just wanted to update you on that. So the interim use permit tonight, Jerry Tang has submitted on request on behalf of VCV. For the interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use to operate a crypto mining facility at 1911 TC Drive. The applicant on this property proposes operating a crypto mining facility with 24 containers to house the data mining machines, along with 24 cooling towers that would be next to those storage containers housing the data mining machines. The primary use of this site is outdoor storage, as any subsequent buildings are accessory to the crypto mining operations. This particular site would also have a guard shack and a construction trailer on it. Crypto mining would be an allowed use in the general industrial zoning district if the operation were to occur in a primary structure, but because VCV is proposing containers to house the data mining machines, the interim use permit is required. So one of the main components of the interim use permit process here is that they are required to have the site fully screened from the storage, from the abutting properties and the rights-of-way. So the applicant is proposing an 8-foot tall chain link fence with privacy slats and barbed wire around the property. So this really dictated the design of the property because it has barbed wire on the top of it, as well as the privacy slats. It did have to be placed at the front yard setback. So there is the 40-yard front yard setback that you do see in the design. So with that, there's also a landscape screening requirement with that as part of the screening requirement. So one shrub shall be planted for every 5 lineal feet. So that is in the plan as well. They are also proposing the driveway and parking area to be paved with asphalt, which is a requirement of the interim use permit. I did produce a summary of the Planning Commission. All of the comments from the Planning Commission were on there. The Planning Commission did consider the interim use permit request for outdoor storage as a principal use and made a motion to recommend approval of the interim use permit with the staff recommended conditions. Upon roll call, the chair declared a tie vote in which the motion did fail. So with that, staff is still recommending approval of the interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use for a crypto mining facility with the following conditions. The interim use is contingent upon final sale of the industrial park property to VCV and is voided upon operations discontinuing as a crypto mining facility. And with that, I believe the applicant is available tonight, and I can certainly answer any questions as well.
Let's start with any questions of staff. Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have one question. The permit would be voided if the operation discontinued as a crypto mining facility. What difference would it make whether they have a permit or not after they have everything constructed and sitting there?
So part of the interim use process, so if the crypto mining facility did stop, another operation couldn't come in and use outdoor storage potentially in that site. It would still have some, the city council would have some authority to take a look and see if outdoor storage is the best use. However, if they did want to do outdoor storage differently than what's on the plan, they probably would have to come in then and amend an interim use permit for outdoor storage.
Sounds fun. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions of staff? Any other questions of staff? Okay. Do you need to anybody need to get more information? We've got the planning chair and we do have the property owners.
I have a quick question, maybe for our attorney. This is something that's been in the works for quite a while. There's been contracts signed for power through the BPU commission. Infrastructure has been put in place, and we have a land sale. If we were to deny this, what type of legal ramifications would that put the city in? I mean, what risk would we be putting ourselves at?
Mr. President, Council, my understanding is all the work to date has still been contingent upon getting the proper permitting for the site. So I don't see any liability for the city, frankly. I mean, they proceed with certain assumptions in the hopes that things, that you get all the approvals that you need. And this is likely the last one that they need in the list of things to get this operation moving. So I don't think the city has created any liability by approving or making the investments that they've made so far.
Chairman O'Day, anything else?
I will just say that before hearing anything else and looking at this project, I've looked at it a lot, and it's something that I wasn't in favor of necessarily in the beginning. But for where we're at right now, the amount of effort that's gone into it, I'm not going to vote to turn this down. I will go with staff recommendation and follow that recommendation.
Perfect. I'm going to have you hold comments for or against until we get a motion.
Too late.
Any questions of staff? Any other questions of staff? It appears there are no questions, so any one of us could make a motion outside of me to either approve or deny, but I think the applicant deserves an answer onto whether we will allow the interim use permit at 1911 TC Drive.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm ready to make a motion to recommend approval of the interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use for a crypto mining facility with the following conditions. The interim use permit is contingent upon final sale of the industrial park property to VCV and is voided upon operations discontinuing as a crypto mining facility.
Second.
Second that motion.
We have a motion by Erickson, a second by Beazer.
You can have
Any discussion now on the motion, Chairman O'Day?
I support the motion.
Thank you. Tad?
Yeah, I'll just add too, so the liaison to the planning commission, there was a lot of discussion about this at the planning commission meeting, and some about the energy usage. My feeling was that BPU had those conversations. Clearly, there's an agreement in place, and so I didn't feel like it was the city's responsibility or city's role to be questioning the applicant's business model. They'd made this investment, that risk is on something that they're taking on themselves. And as been noted, we're well down the road with this project, and we did feel that it was appropriate for the interim use permit. So I will support.
Thank you. Any other comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Let's go on to item 8, new business. Item 8B, consideration of an interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use at 1918 TC Drive. Mr. Crambitt.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So Jerry Tang has submitted a request on behalf of VCV Digital Infrastructure for an interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use to operate a crypto mining facility at 1918 Theses Drive. This site is proposed with a slightly different layout with 12 containers to house the data mining machines along with 12 cooling towers. This site would also have an office and a guard shack. The applicant is proposing similar style fencing on this one, 8-foot tall chain link fence with privacy slats that would be on the north side of this one to screen the storage containers. So Planning Commission's vote was identical to 1911 TC Drive, in which it was a tie vote, so the motion failed. Staff's recommendation is for approval of the interim use permit for outdoor storage as a principal use for a crypto mining facility with the following conditions. The interim use permit is contingent upon final sale of the industrial park property to VCV and is voided upon operations discontinuing as a crypto mining facility.
Sound familiar? Any questions of staff? Any questions of staff? And we're looking for a motion on the interim use permit. Tad Erickson.
Move to approve as recommended.
Thank you. Second by Stingline.
Sure.
Didn't you second it?
Oh, I think it was it Jamie?
I get you too mixed.
That was the first one. It's your turn.
Jamie Beazer, thank you for seconding the motion.
You are welcome.
Any further discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Let's move on to 8, new business. 8C, consideration of a variance from setback standards for a guard shack at 1911 TC Drive, I believe. Mr. Crambick.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Jerry Tang submitted a request on behalf of VCV Digital Infrastructure for a variance at 1911 TC Drive. The applicant is proposing a reduced front yard setback from 40 feet to 36 feet for the installation of a guard shack for the crypto mining facility. The GI standard district lists a minimum front yard setback of 40 feet from the front property line. And within that code, all accessory building standards must meet the principal building setbacks. So with this, variances may be granted when the applicant for the variance establishes that there are practical difficulties in complying with the zoning ordinance. Planning Commission did consider the variance request for a reduced setback for the construction of the guard shack during the regular meeting and voted unanimously to recommend denying the variance request as the reduced setback was caused by the design of the property owner and not considered a practical difficulty unique to the site. With that, I can certainly answer any other questions.
Any questions of our Community Development Director on the setback?
Mr. President, I do
Yes.
have one question.
Tad Erickson.
And I think I know the answer to this, but at the Planning Commission meeting, we did ask Mr. Tang if there was any other options, and he said he'd have to check with his engineering staff. Had we heard back from them regarding any alternative options?
We have not seen any designs for alternative options, but it did not seem like it, would have a potentially major impact on it. There does seem to be some space between the guard shack and the proposed fence there where it could potentially be incorporated into the fence or just pushed up next to it. But I've not heard that they've had an actual alternate design yet.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions of staff? Any other questions of staff? Chairman Johnson?
Just what's the logic of a 40-foot front yard setback?
The 40-foot front yard setback is just the setback for the general industrial district.
Why not 35? Why not 42? Why not 60?
It's like our facade.
Yeah, it certainly, could have been something else established in the zoning district. I think it's pretty similar to what we had in the previous standard general industrial zoning district as well.
Well, I'm convinced.
Excellent. Can you explain it? All right. Any further discussions from staff? Anybody care to try a stab at this request? To approve or deny?
I'll make the motion. So I'll make the motion to deny the variance request for reduced front yard setback for construction of the guard shack.
Excellent.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Erickson, second by Johnson. Any discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes?
So again, a lot of discussion at the planning commission meeting about this one. As James mentioned, it did seem like there was potentially other alternative designs where they could put the guard shack where it would be within the 40-foot setback. And so given that, the planning commission didn't feel that it met the practical difficulty. So that was the reason for the denial of the variance.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any further discussion? So if you vote in favor of the motion, you're voting to deny the request for variance for the 36-foot guard shack setback. Okay? So if you're voting in favor, you're voting to deny. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. The variance is denied. We will move on to item D, which is consideration of a variance from setback standards for ADA wheelchair lift at 804 Oak Street. Mr. Kramvik, is this you again?
This is me again. Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a setback. Mark Needham has submitted a variance request on behalf of Brainerd Public Schools at 804 Oak Street. The applicant is requesting a reduced rear yard setback from 10 feet to 0 feet for the addition of an ADA enclosed wheelchair lift along Pine Street. Again, variances may be granted when the applicant for the variance established that there are practical difficulties in complying with the zoning ordinance. On this building, which is Washington, the rear side of the building does not currently have an ADA accessibility to the first floor. The proposed structure will not extend any further than the existing concrete steps that are on the building right now. There really are no other options on this side of the building for placement of the proposed structure to reduce the requested setback. So with that, Planning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the variance request. The recommended motion is to approve the variance request for a 0-foot rear yard setback at 804 Oak Street to allow for the construction of an ADA enclosed wheelchair lift.
Thank you, Mr. Kramvik. Any questions of staff? Any questions of staff? Hearing none, can I entertain a motion on the variance?
Mr. President, I would move to approve the variance as presented.
Motion by Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stunek. Any discussion? Any discussion? Chairman Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. President, I approve the motion, and because I think there is a practical hardship there. This is a 100-year-old building in a dense urban area in the heart of the city. It's a lot different than a greenfield site where they're planning out how they're building, like the last one that I voted to deny. I think this one should be approved.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That variance passes. Next up is item E, consideration of a variance for boundary line adjustment at 3231 Oak Street. Again, Mr. Kramvik.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So Jordan Chenard has submitted a variance request on behalf of Liberty Group of Brainerd at 3231 Oak Street. The applicant is requesting a boundary line adjustment that will remove the required lot frontage on a public street. So this is part of our subdivision ordinance. The applicant is proposing access to the property through a 33-foot wide easement instead of the current flag lot that is 3231 Oak Street. So the property owner to the right is also owned by Liberty Group, but they are proposing to sell 3231 to the existing tenants of that space. So 3323 Oak Street uses the west side of their property for receiving shipments, which would make it difficult with the current configuration of the flag lot. And they are also potentially talking about expansion on the west side of the building, and that is the kind of that large white one that is just to the right side of the flag lot there. So the Planning Commission did consider the variance request for the boundary line adjustment during their regular meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the variance request with the condition that Liberty Group provides documentation at closing that a secondary easement is agreed upon in the closing documents for the sale of the property. There was a representative from Liberty Group that already said that that was in discussions, that there would be a secondary easement option as part of the lot just to the south of the flag lot in the event that Liberty Group wants to expand to the west side into the easement that is proposed in the site plan. And with that, certainly you can answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kramvik. Any discussions or questions or comments of staff? Hearing none, we're looking for a motion to approve or deny the variance for boundary line adjustment at 3231 Oak Street.
So move.
Motion by Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by O'Day. Any discussion on the
Still
motion?
awake?
Third.
Okay.
Thank you.
President.
Attorney Langle.
You had asked for a motion to approve or deny. It went so moved. Can we just get clarification as to what the motion was?
Thank you.
Good point.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Mr. O'Day?
Second.
All right. Thank you.
You've earned your
Mr.
pay.
Langle. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is item F, a consideration of a variance from setback standards for duplex construction at 515 South 9th Street. Mr. Kramvik.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So Eric Stangler has submitted a request on behalf of Stangler Properties for a variance at 515 South 9th Street. The applicant is requesting a reduced side yard setback from 5 feet to 2.5 feet along the north boundary line for development of a duplex. This variance request was approved 2 years ago by the city of Brainerd. However, nothing was constructed on site, so the variance did expire after 1 year. The applicant did revisit the site and measured and is now requesting the 2.5 foot setback rather than the 3 foot setback that was applied for 2 years ago. Planning Commission considered the variance request during their regular meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the variance request as the structure would be consistent with other properties in the neighborhood. The recommended motion is to approve the variance request for a reduced side yard setback from 5 feet to 2.5 feet along the north boundary line.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Kramvik or any staff? Any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes, Chairman O'Day.
I'm looking at the design for this building. Am I looking at it right? The front of the building along, is it 9th Street? Doesn't have a front door. The doors are on the southern part in between two buildings.
That's correct. So Planning Commission did discuss that at their meeting, and there are other buildings in the neighborhood that have that side-loaded entry as well, so they did feel that was consistent with the neighborhood. But that's correct, there would be no front door to the building.
Right. But that's not a good thing that that's consistent to the neighborhood either. I was going to mention that we see these things popping up, you know, in different neighborhoods, and it doesn't look great. And at the risk of offending the developer, I'm sorry, but it does make it look like some type of military installment. So I don't know if that's something that we can look into. It's not something I want to deny based on this one, but if we keep approving buildings that look like barracks, then we're going to have a bunch of barracks, and we have to call it Fort Brainerd. That's all.
Thank you, good point. Any further discussion or questions of staff? Hearing none, we're looking for a motion on the variance from setback standards for the duplex at 515 South 9.
Motion to approve.
Second Johnson.
We have a move to approve by Erickson, a second by Chairman Johnson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Mr. Krambeck, let's go on, we're cruising through these. Item G, consideration of a variance from setback standards and height standards for garage construction at 324 Woodland Hills Lane. Anything you'd like to add to what's in our packet?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So Jeff Howard has submitted a request for 2 variances for 324 Woodland Hills Lane for a garage construction. The applicant is requesting a detached garage placement in front of the principal structure, which typically that has to be behind the principal structure, and for the proposed detached garage to exceed the height of the principal structure by 3 feet, 4.5 inches. The proposed detached garage is 40 feet by 40 feet with a height of 15 feet, 7.5 inches at the midpoint of the roof. So with that, Planning Commission considered these variance requests during their regular meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval of both variance requests due to the topographical and wetland challenges of the property, the rear of the property, as the owner stated with pictures, and I did review in GIS, does have topographical challenges in there. The recommended motion is to approve both variance requests for the detached garage placement in front of the principal structure, 52 feet from the property line, and for the proposed detached garage to exceed the height of the principal structure by 3 feet, 4.5 inches.
Thank you, Mr. Kramvik. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, is there a motion on the the variance from setback standards at 324 Woodland Hills Lane?
Move to approve both.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Erickson, a second by O'Day to approve both the requests. Any discussion on the motion? Chairman, or Mr. Erickson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just mention too, not to reiterate what James has said, but the topography created the practical difficulty for both the variances. And then in addition to that, the garden living zoning was meant to provide a little additional flexibility, and that's where this is. So that was taken into consideration. That was in the findings of fact as well. So I will support.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the variance, say aye. Aye. Variances, I'm sorry. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is H, Rules of Decorum. I asked to put this on here. It seems we're coming up to the election time of the year, and this seems like a perfect time to just refresh our memories that we do have rules of decorum that this body has adopted. I hope y'all read them. It's great reading, and I hope you understand them, and I hope you follow them. I don't see any need for any changes or to reiterate our past motions to approve. One thing that does seem to have come up a little bit, maybe more this fall, as we're working to continue creating one City of Brainerd family with all of our entities, PUC, the parks, the street department, and all of the elected officials and all the volunteers, is if we can remember to remain civil. The rules of decorum that are in our packet seem to be written more for operating in this room. And I think that's great. I hope everybody in the city of Brainerd, employees, staff, volunteers, and elected officials, can take that with us when we walk out of here. When we go to our liaison meetings, library board, newly appointed library board liaison, when we go out to, we're always representing the city of Brainerd. And try and do your best to maintain your composure. Grandma used to say, count to 10 before you open your mouth, or sleep on it before you hit send on that email. I think those are all great ideas. And I hope you all have some of your own that you can practice and share with others when you see that sometimes it isn't going as smooth as we had hoped. So we're trying to, I know everybody in here is trying to do their best representation for the city of Brainerd. And as your council president, I really thank you for that. Keep it up, and don't forget the rules of decorum are not just for in here. So, any questions of what I mean? Any comments? It's not meant to pull anybody out or anything. It's just, I mean, all of us, myself included, have went, dang, I wish I wouldn't have said that. Tiffany Stangline.
Well, it's on the same topic, so it's germane. But I know I had mentioned it, I think to Jennifer a little while ago, that the Sturgis Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure is no longer the Sturgis Code of Parliamentary Procedure. It is the American, hold on. The American Institute of Parliamentarians Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure.
Did you just pull out a book?
I did.
Points.
I have the old one too.
Double points.
A+. For Dave Bedeau for knowing what a book is.
Only I could read.
Yeah, you give him books and you choose on the cover.
So, Mr. President, if it would be in order, to make a motion to amend the rules of decorum at this point, or it's not
Why
terribly
don't
urgent.
you give us a chance to look at
Sure.
those before we vote on them? Yeah,
It is really the same, it's the same thing, it's just they updated the name when they did the most recent edition. But yes, I'll pass them around if you would like.
I'm sure there'll be a line. The point I'm trying to make is the civility should come with us when we leave this building. When we're representing the city of Brainerd, when we're visiting our committees that we're liaisoning with, when we're visiting constituents, when we're debating with candidates, all perfect opportunities to take the high ground and follow the rules of decorum. All right, that's enough of that. We will move on to item 9, the public forum. This is time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the council. We usually ask you to keep it to 5 minutes or less. It's 8:25, and let's open the public forum. Anybody in the audience, we'll start with you, who would like to come forward and speak to the city council on something we haven't discussed this evening. Come on up. And everybody got a copy of this, so.
Everybody but me.
I can't help that.
Hi, I'm Kathy Tusa, 14075 Firewood Drive, Baxter. I'm currently president of the board at the center, in case you couldn't tell by my formal attire this evening. We've talked to you before about some of our activities, fundraising, our plant sale, our weekly production of donuts, but we also have some entertainment groups, and we thought we'd like to let you know that. And thank you for your continued support of senior activities. We do have a choir that sings at nursing homes and senior living facilities, and we have a theater group. And we're putting on a show next Monday. We're having a catered dinner with the Brainerd restaurant. Our show is called Hee Haw, which is a parody of the old Hee Haw shows back in the 70s. And I'm sure tickets are still available if you're dying to come, at the center, 803 Kingwood. Diane.
I'm Diane Sommer-Guide. I am glad to say that I'm a charter member of the theater group. We're now called the Platinum Players. I don't always dress like this, but I know that's why they asked me to perform. You will enjoy the performance no matter whether it's one of these larger ones that we do twice a year or if it's the smaller ones. We go out into the communities surrounding, and Brainerd has a very unique senior center. There are no other communities that have the theater group and the many available agendas that are presented to all of our seniors. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to support. We get to brag about Brainerd whenever we're out, and we have been putting on about 20 performances these past 5 years. We've gone into other communities. I also direct the choir, so we get to see a lot of people, and we're always happy to say we're from Brainerd. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak to the council about something that's not on the agenda? Come on up, state your name and address.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. My name is Candace Zimmerman. I'm the Executive Director of the Northland Arboretum. I live at 10246 County Road 44 in Brainerd. So as the recipient or one of the recipients of the City of Brainerd levy funds, I wanted to take some opportunity to provide you with an update and show that we have, in good faith, been taking some strategic steps in becoming a more sustainable and healthy organization. So we did form a work group per our 18-month funding agreement. I have met with City Administrator Bergman and Baxter City Administrator Chapoulis. And we've been having some strategic discussions and continuing to have great conversation. We've hired a strategic consultant for the Northland Arboretum, which has helped us through some prioritization and some leadership training. We've had many conversations with community partners, including the owners of the land in which we manage, including Crow Wing County and the Nature Conservancy. We are considering or in process of changing some of our fee structures, and we've even had discussions with the development directors down at the Chaska Arboretum to brainstorm and kind of lean on them as far as sustainable funding ideas. Currently, myself and one of my board members are in fundraising school provided by the Initiative Foundation. And I would, with your permission, like to invite you to hand out invitations to our annual meeting coming up on October 27th at 6 p.m. To share more of our impact throughout our fiscal year. And I welcome any questions.
Thanks. You can just hand those to Ted and he'll pass them down. Thank you. Anything else?
No. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming. Anybody else in the audience? Sean, do we have anybody on? Nope, it looks pretty sparse online. Anybody else in the audience? Then it is 8:31. I will close the public forum. We'll move on to staff reports. We'll start off with our HR Director, Schubert. Nothing. Fire Chief Holmes?
Yeah, I just have one thing. I have an invitation here for our open house for you, and also each of you collector's coin in commemoration of our 150th anniversary. So the coin is just to acknowledge your time on the council during our 150th anniversary, and we'd love to see you at our open house next Thursday.
Thank you. What time does that start, Chief?
It is from 5 to 7 at the main station on Laurel Street.
All right, and that's 4 days from now. 4 days, this week.
Next week.
Next week.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, just checking. Attorney Langle?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Anything from the Community
Yes.
Development
Thank you,
Department,
Mr. President.
Kramvik?
So yeah, I'd like to thank Brandy Wynn from the Warrior Early Learning Center and Sean from the Streets Department for all their help with the Touch a Truck event this past weekend. It was a great event. The kids got a chance to get into some large vehicles, honked a lot of horns. So it was a great time for everyone. I know the fire department was down there and we're disassembling a vehicle with the Jaws of Life. Everybody thought that was pretty cool. So just wanted to thank the people who coordinated as well as all the participants that came.
Thank you. City Engineer, Public Works Director Dean.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council. Just a couple quick things. So we're still looking at a couple new positions with the Public Works Department. Our Parks Maintenance received about 26 applicants, so we're going through the interviews this week. And for the Administration Specialist role, we got 34 currently, and we still have another day to accept some more applicants on that one. So we're pretty blessed that we've gotten so many applicants for those two positions. So we're looking forward to getting through those interviews and hopefully bringing together a recommendation for the council on those two hires. We also recently, with the city's project management team, met with a lot of our business owners along the 210 corridor recently and collected a lot of really good input, and we're bringing that to MnDOT and continuing working with the process with MnDOT as we scope that project. And then most recently, the South 6th and Buffalo Hills intersection was opened up to traffic over the weekend. It is a four-way stop, and please note there are no traffic signals there, just a bunch of stop signs, so please mind those stop signs and make sure that people are taking their turns at that intersection.
Mr. President?
Yeah,
Is it going to be signalized when the project's
is it gonna be signalized?
It is. They're still waiting on the traffic signals to come in. They're still delayed.
Don't you think we should have one of those police officers with the, the whistles and like they did? Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah.
Pretty soon we will. We don't have any cop cars. A bike and a whistle.
Finance Director Hillman. Sean Strong, anything from the IT department?
Nothing from IT.
Anything from the police department?
Nothing, Mr. President.
All right, and online, I think we've got Eric Charpentier from the HRA. Anything to add?
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. City Administrator Bergman?
Nothing in addition to my written report, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Mayor Badeau.
Holy heck. All right, I got a couple things, and
Of course.
one of them lighthearted, one of them not so lighthearted. So let's start with the proclamation first, right here. So as you all know, man, you love when you hear me read. So this will be fun for everyone involved. This is a proclamation for our fire department, as Fire Chief had just mentioned, celebrating the 150th anniversary. So for 1 year, we're allowing things to burn down everywhere. And then we were like, you know what, let's start a fire department. So year 2 of the city of Brainerd, we decided we should have a fire department. But I've got this proclamation here. I will read it as such. Whereas the city of Brainerd is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting our area, and whereas fire is a serious public concern both locally and nationally, and homes are locations where people are at great risk from fire. And whereas working smoke alarms cut risk of dying in reported home fires in half, and whereas residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the smoke alarm sound and knows how to respond, and whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will more likely survive a fire, and whereas the 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, reminds us that we need to take personal steps to increase our fire safety and have a home fire escape plan. Therefore, I, Dave Badeau, Mayor, do hereby proclaim October 9th through 15th, 2022 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this community. I urge all people throughout the city of Brainerd and this community to check their smoke and carbon monoxide detectors during Fire Prevention Week, to practice their home fire escape plan, and to participate in the many public safety activities and efforts of the Brainerd Fire Department as they celebrate their 150th year.
I think that's worthy of it.
There we go, let's get it. And of course, it says I set my hand and it fixed things, which is great. That's my favorite part of my job, setting my hand. Okay, so I'm gonna get a little serious for a little bit, because I've had a few things that have kind of been bothering me in the last month or so, and I just want to speak publicly so that we are on the up and up. I am a firm believer that we, as the stewards of the public interest, have to hold ourselves to the highest possible standards. And lately we've just had a few things that have kind of maybe been a little squirrely or kind of gotten us off track a little bit and here or there. And I just want to make sure that we are always checking ourselves and always making sure that we are putting the public first, and more so the most important thing I think that we can do as a city is continue to hold the public's trust. And so one of the things, somehow, in the last handful of years, our city has deflected a lot of things that have been happening to other organizations in terms of their ability to regain trust. And so I just want to call us out on a few things, and this is maybe feeling a little bit of personal attacks, but at the same time, I think it's important for us to say these things, and I think it's important for us to say these things publicly so that we can continue to be on the right path. There was a 210 business owners meeting that we had held just this last Thursday. Jesse, I really appreciate you for putting that on. However, we only gave people 24-hour heads up for that meeting. That makes people question, what are we doing? Why am I only getting 24 hours to get an opportunity to step away from my business, to let my voice be heard? Those things are important. If we're gonna ask the public for their opinion, we've got to make sure we're giving them an opportunity. I really appreciate setting up that meeting, but we can't set up meetings that are just 24 hours in advance. It makes people question, what are we trying to hide? Is there something that we're trying to avoid? There was the problem today with the inaccuracies with our meeting minutes. We got called out on that. We had a just procedure happen. Things didn't go as we expected them to, but our minutes to our meeting did not reflect what happened. They reflected what we expected to happen or what we were adjusting to have happen. We can't have those things happen. Even though we were able to then change it and make sure that the meeting minutes are correct, those are small mistakes that we can't make. We've got to make sure that our meeting minutes are accurate. We had a small discussion at the park board in which the park board asked the council to look into something concerning some city ordinances. And I know that city staff is looking to look into that, but if the park board asks for something, it needs to come to the council in terms of at least being a heads up. The park board has asked this, we're preparing something, it's gonna come to you. Because if you're following along at home and you hear that at the park board, and then you see the next meeting and there's no talk of that, well, now am I waiting for the next meeting? When is this gonna come up? We need to make sure that we're at least addressing that. The park board has asked these questions. Let's make sure that the council is at least aware that that question has been asked. And then lastly, there was just some discussion that happened at our Planning and Zoning Commission, and I want to echo kind of what Council Member Erickson said about getting off of the subject a little bit at our Planning and Zoning Commission. And this goes for all our commissions. When something comes up and we have a task at hand and we are addressing a specific issue, it is pertinent for us to either A, ask questions ahead of time. So if we're asking questions about power usage that staff is not going to be prepared for, ask that ahead of time so that we can actually come prepared with either asking BPU to be here, or we can either have the staff an opportunity to have that information, because the applicant has the right to have these things move forward speedily. We shouldn't be asking questions at the meeting that are drawing from subjects that we don't have, but more importantly, we shouldn't be questioning people's business plans. And I think that happened twice in very recently at that position. Specifically on this item, these are questions that were addressed at other commissions earlier in the process, and these were decisions that were made. BPU is its own commission that makes decisions. If we have questions, even if we are commissioners, if we have questions, attend those meetings and ask those questions. Or send an email addressing those questions so that we can actually address those things rather than coming out forward and asking that, or potentially attacking someone's business plan. We just can't have that type of stuff. And so I'm not doing this to throw all of us under the bus. I'm just simply saying that we've gotten to a point where there's just little things happening here and there. And we've got to make sure that we are doing things on the up and up so that the people that are out there listening, the people that are watching us, know that we are holding ourselves to the highest standard. And so that's all I ask. Few little things, not direct attacks, not meant to call people out and be personal attacks, but just mindful of the fact that at all times we as a city are being watched, and we as a city have people that are interested in what we're doing, and we have to make sure that the little things are correct always so that there aren't questions as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. End of long speech.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next up, item 12 is our council member reports. We'll start on this end, Tiffany Stingline.
Well, I was at the Flapjack Festival. I actually got pancakes this year, so that was good. It was a good time. I'm glad the mayor's feeling better. Sorry you were under the weather.
Too much flapjack.
No
too much
drinking
syrup.
syrup, right?
Yeah, right out of the jug.
Wrong kind of syrup.
But since you didn't mention it, Mr. Mayor, I thought I should mention that it was a good time. Good time was had. There was the Paul Bunyan look-alike contest, and there was even a Babe the Blue Ox. Sorry you missed it.
Wanted to be there, wanted to be at Touch a Truck as well, but I'm going to tell you right now that Touch a Truck and the Flapjack Festival are joining forces next year. Let it be declared.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
I know.
We cooked over 200 pancakes. How's that?
Why is everybody calling
And
flapjacks
donated it.
pancakes?
Okay, we
Are they
cooked 200
different, Chairman
flapjacks.
Johnson? I don't know.
That's all I got. Move on.
Do you have a book on the difference? I don't know. What do you got, Chairman
I'll research it and get back
I
to
have
Mr. President.
nothing to add, other than if it's a flapjack festival, we should call them flapjacks. Thank you.
Oh, you called me out. Boy, heck with it. Somebody else could.
Alderman Erickson.
Nothing except timely fire preventative proclamation. I just swapped out my carbon monoxide and smoke detectors today.
I
So
thought you were going to say you had a fire.
Prevented FIU.
that's it for me.
Just started my house on fire today.
Oh. Alderman Beezer.
Nothing to add, sir.
Thank you. Chairman O'Day.
What all these guys said.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And I went to the Senior Center Barbecue Festival 2 Fridays ago. I went and used the compost at the Arboretum 3 times in the last 2 weeks. I touched a truck. I ate some flapjacks.
Thank you.
Not one darn pancake touched my lips.
Wow.
All right, we're looking for motions to adjourn. If you're paying attention, we're going to adjourn to 2 closed sessions this evening. So we're going to adjourn, and then we come back into open session. If there's any motions, then we'll make them, and then we'll adjourn again to the second closed session. The first one will be on pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.03 to discuss labor negotiation strategy. We'll come back into open session, make any pertinent or necessary motions, and then item 14 will be to adjourn to close session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3B for attorney-client privilege to discuss the City of Brainerd lawsuit versus Carlson pending litigation. Is there a motion on item 13 to move to closed session to discuss labor negotiation strategy?
So move. Second.
Motion by Erickson, second by Stunek. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.